Let's go ahead and give them a taste test here and see. That is crazy. That is really good. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Ratboy Homestead. Today is going to be another freeze drying video. And it's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. As you can see, I've got an incredible amount of eggs. Our chickens are laying eggs like crazy right now. It's springtime here, so that's laying season. So we're gonna go ahead and freeze dry raw eggs. So in this video, we're gonna go over how many eggs will fit in a 5-tray medium Harvest Right freeze dryer, how long it takes for non-pre-frozen or just raw eggs to freeze dry completely, how to reconstitute those eggs, and at the end, I'm gonna show you a unique way that I'm gonna package these up to make them easier to use in the future. First thing I'm gonna go ahead and do is load my trays into the freeze dryer because we're gonna pour the eggs right into the trays while they're in the freeze dryer. So I've got our trays here. We've got our Harvest Right silicone mats that finally showed up. So let's get them in the freeze dryer and get it started up on pre-freeze. Cooling vacuum chamber. All right, so now for the fun part. We're gonna start cracking all of our eggs, and I'm gonna use a blender today to make scrambling them just a little bit easier than trying to whisk them up. I don't have a fancy immersion blender, so this is what we're gonna be using. I've got a bucket right down below me here. I'm gonna be putting all the eggshells in and we'll throw into the compost. So yeah, let's get cracking. All right, so I'm guessing somewhere around 18 eggs per tray, but I'll be honest, I really don't know, so we're gonna learn together here today. And I don't know about you guys, but my eggs from our chickens the shells just like to, they're really, really hard. So they like to just bust into pieces, and it's hard not to get eggshell in your scrambled eggs, but let's get cracking. I'm gonna start putting 18 eggs in here, one secret ingredient, and then we're gonna go ahead and put it in the freeze dryer. All right, there's 18 eggs in there. Now, what I'm gonna go ahead and do, and what I've heard in the past, is if you go ahead and add a little bit of plain salt into the eggs, it's supposed to help with the consistency, something about the proteins in there getting along, I don't know. But that's what we're gonna do, because why not? Can't hurt. I mean, everyone likes a little bit of salt in their eggs, right? I don't know about these darn things, these little things on the top of the salt. They don't work very good, so we're just gonna rip that guy out. And we're gonna put in a half a teaspoon in 18 eggs, blend it up, and we'll go ahead and get it in our trays. Ooh. That got carried away. All right, now I've done this in the past to blend a lot of eggs, and if you go too much, you end up really aerating them and they get really foamy. So we're just gonna kind of tap the button a little bit and just enough to scramble them. All right, them look scrambled to me. Now let's go ahead, dump it in our first tray, and we'll see how much it fills it. I want to leave a little bit of room at the top because I'm assuming as these freeze it's going to expand, and I don't want to make a giant mess, so let's go ahead and put it in the first tray. All right, so as it turns out, 18 eggs is perfect for the Harvest Right medium. So I'm gonna go ahead, repeat that process 4 times, and yeah, get back with you guys when everything's all loaded up in the freeze dryer. All right, well, there you go. They're all blended up and scrambled, loaded into our freeze dryer. And for those of you that ain't very good at math like me, that's 90 eggs jammed into a medium harvest rate freeze dryer. So that's pretty good. That's a lot of eggs. So we'll go ahead and hit the continue button. Now, go ahead and do a guy a favor. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Give me a like for cracking 90 eggs. And go ahead and drop a comment down below on your guess at how long this is going to take to freeze dry all these eggs. And we'll get back with you as soon as they're done. We'll see what they look like. All right, so our eggs are done. And if you guessed 44 hours and 30 minutes, you'd be correct. So what we're gonna do, go ahead and pull them out, and then I'm gonna go ahead and run them through the food processor. So let's go ahead and get them pulled out. All right, so the way I'm gonna go ahead and package these is I'm gonna run them through the food processor and grind these into as much of a powder as I can get. And then we're gonna go ahead and put them into mason jars, so that way it's easy to scoop out of to reconstitute and make our eggs, which we're gonna try in a little bit here. So as you can see, our eggs are nice and done. The trays are warm all the way across, and they're very dense but very flaky. They just crumble. So we're gonna go ahead and get it loaded up into here. I'm also curious as to how many mason jars this ends up making. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it loaded up and try not to make a giant mess. It's weird to think too, you gotta be a little cautious. I mean, you are working with raw eggs, even though it doesn't really seem like it. The silicone mats are working great, nothing's sticking at all. I wish I would've used the dividers. It would've made it a lot easier to get these in here, but. And we also kind of want to work a little bit quickly because we don't want them to absorb outside moisture at all. I think I'm going to go ahead and mulch that down a little bit. Thought I was going to grind it a little finer, but it's working. You can see here we've got some nice egg powder. All right, now that we've got our eggs turned into powder, I'm going to go ahead and try to put them into this mason jar. I've got a jar funnel here. I'm not sure what the easiest way to do this is, but we're just going to try to pour it in there. Oh, that's not what we want to do. Wow, okay. So as you can see, that looks awesome. And that is a full jar. That's pretty cool. So 18 eggs or one medium harvest rate tray fits about perfectly in a quart size mason jar. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of these trays ground up and put into jars, and I'll show you what we're gonna go ahead and do next to seal these off. All right, so I've got them all packaged up, or in jars I should say. So I ended up packing the eggs into the jars to make a little bit more room, and we ended up with 3.5 jars of our eggs, our raw eggs. All right, well, unfortunately, this is part of that you live and you learn, right? So I'm not going to be able to get the trays out with that much ice in there to go ahead and vac seal them in there. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and put our 300cc oxygen absorber in here, tighten the band down good and tight, and these should seal themselves with the oxygen absorber. So we'll go ahead and do that, set these off to the side, and then we're going to do our taste test. All right, so all I'm going to do is go ahead and open these back up. Open up our oxygen absorbers here, and we're going to put one in each jar. And what I'm going to do is I'll come back once this thaws out, probably make a separate short little video on how you use your harvest rate to vacuum seal jars. And we'll probably loosen the bands and actually vacuum seal these, probably put in new oxygen absorbers at that time. But you live and you learn. All right, so now the next thing we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna do our taste test. So the first thing is to go ahead and reconstitute these eggs. Now, everything I'm seeing online with some very slight variation looks like a 1-to-1 ratio egg powder to water equals about the right consistency. And it looks like 2 tablespoons of the egg powder to 2 tablespoons of water is supposed to equal about 1 egg about perfectly. So we're gonna go ahead and do 1 egg's worth. We're gonna get it mixed up and we'll see if the consistency looks about right. All right, so I've got some of our egg powder I saved in here. So we're gonna go ahead, take 2 tablespoons here, egg powder. And then we're going to do 2 tablespoons of water. There's 1. And there's 2. Might have been a little light. There we go. Now we'll go ahead and we'll mix that all up and see if that ends up looking about right. We'll let that sit for a few minutes to get good and reconstituted, and we'll throw it in a pan and cook it up. All right, so these look like they reconstituted perfectly. They definitely just look like eggs again. We're gonna go ahead and put them in our pan, and we'll see what they taste like. So I've never used this little electric cooktop before. So we're just gonna kind of turn it on. Now normally I would add just a little splash of milk. There's already some salt in there, obviously, but I would also add a little bit of pepper, you know, or the normal things that you do. But today I'm just gonna put a little bit of butter on the pan so they don't stick, and that's it. I'm not gonna add anything else to it because I want to get a good idea what the eggs themselves taste like and are like. Go ahead and get our eggs in the pan here. Give them one last little stir. It certainly looks like scrambled eggs. Really, really well blended scrambled eggs. Plenty big enough pan for one little egg. I'll go ahead and crank her on max, get something done here. All right, so let's see, I got them in a bowl here. As you can see, they look like scrambled eggs, you know, without anything else in them. Let's go ahead and give them a taste test here and see. That is crazy. That is really good. If you didn't know this came out of a freeze dryer and sat on your shelf for who knows how long, you could pass this as right out of the chicken coop, fresh eggs, no problem. That is really good. I would say that the 1-to-1 ratio of egg to water is perfect for reconstituting. And I would also say that the 2 tablespoons of egg to 2 tablespoons of water is about 1 egg. I mean, that looked like about 1 egg to me. So I would definitely do this again. I would not change a single thing. Again, we took 90 eggs, 7.5 dozen eggs, blended them in the blender with just a little bit of salt, which these I don't really taste. Maybe a little bit of salt, but they're not salty by any means. We then were able to put 18 eggs per tray onto our medium freeze dryer trays, freeze dry them down. It took about, what did I say, 44.5 hours, I think it was. Ended up turning that into 4.5 quart size mason jars that should be shelf stable for most of forever. And yeah, we now have absolutely delicious eggs that we can pull off the shelf. You know, if something happens to our chickens, raccoon gets in, kills them all, you're gonna be without laying hens for a year, you know. In the wintertime when they're not laying very well and you get, you know, 1 egg per week, we've got eggs on the shelf. Now obviously this isn't a fresh fried egg that you're gonna dip your toast in the morning, but it's pretty darn good scrambled eggs, that's for sure. Definitely recommend. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hope you learned something. Hope it maybe gave you an idea of something else you can try. I'm gonna go ahead and make probably a separate video on vacuum sealing these jars. I am gonna do that, so hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for how we're gonna do that once this thing decides to defrost. And until next time, you guys have a good one.